All right, good evening, everyone. My name is Corinne Ciceda with the URA. Tonight, we have a great group of people together to present some information about small business assistance, both from the federal level and some resources locally. We're going to try and keep it to an hour. And if you can, put questions in the chat and we'll take a break after we talk about the federal assistance and answer questions that you have. And then we'll do some information on local resources and do another Q&A after that. And but yeah, we have enough people that it's can be disruptive if we're interrupting people. So let's try and keep it to the chat if possible. We are going to do a quick round robin of introductions, ending with Trish, and then Trish will just roll into the PPP. Yeah, I think we can get going. No other table setting there. Again, my name is Corinne Ciceda with the URA. Let's do the URA first then, Josette and Charles.
Hi, I'm Josette Fitzgibbons. I'm a business program officer with the URA.
My name is Charles Hudson. I'm a business solutions officer with the URA.
And then maybe Henry.
I'm Henry Horn Pyatt. I'm the Economic Opportunity Manager in the Office of Equity in the City of Pittsburgh. That means I work with small business programs, business district programs, and wealth building programs.
And then I think Anne, if you don't mind introducing yourself and Chatham.
Yeah, so my name is Anne Flynn Schlecht. I'm director at the Center for Women's Entrepreneurship at Chatham University. We are a SBA approved women business center, and we work with businesses, both male and female owned, to help them launch and grow their businesses. We do a lot regarding the federal loan programs, the PPP and the EIDL, which you hear about today. We do have free one-on-one counseling to assist with the PPP and EIDL loans, which are very busy right now. And so if you have any questions, just reach out to us. We have a great resource page as well. And I included in the chat feature some links just updated by the SBA recently on the PPP as well. So.
Great. And then we'll try and put our contact information as well in the chat. So presenters, when you get a chance, maybe drop it in there just in case we mention something and someone wants to follow up with us. And then Trish, if you don't mind introducing yourself, and then we could actually roll into the content.
Sure. So I'm Trish Stiglietto. I'm one of the co-founders of Paramount Pursuits. We are an economic development consulting firm, and we work with Main Street communities to help them revitalize. And we work with small businesses who are looking to get started and grow. We really specialize in helping small minority and women-owned businesses in their journey with a real big focus on mentorship and business education. So I'm in the same boat as you all right now, right? We are a for-profit business, and when COVID hit back in March and everything got shut down, much like all of you, I sat down and said, holy cow, how is this going to affect my business and what do I need to do? So if you remember when the first rounds of PPP and EIDL rolled out, it was uber stressful, like constant changes, super overwhelming, super stressful. So what I want to make sure, and everybody on this call today wants to make sure, is that you have the resources you need so that you get the help that you need and you don't feel like you're in this alone. So we all went through round one, or a lot of us went through round one of these government programs. So we're here today to talk more about the new programs, or the same programs, but how they've been changed due to the Economic Aid Act that was released at the end of December. So first thing that I want to tell you is it could be really stressful. Going back to what I just said, there is a ton of bad information on social media right now, on the internet right now about PPP. There's misinformation. There are people telling you to do really crazy things right now. I saw someone yesterday put in a business group not to admit that you had a bankruptcy on your PPP application because you wouldn't get funded. That's not the way to handle things, guys. Be honest on your application. You're going to attest that everything's true. And as we saw in round one, a lot of people got in trouble for creating fake companies or forging documents. So I encourage you, A, be honest on your application. B, get answers from the right places. And that's why we're here to talk today about what some of those answers are. Ann spoke a few minutes ago. They are an excellent resource if you have questions that are specific to your business. So number one, contact your SBDC. If you're reading documents online, you'll see in the chat already, there are a bunch of documents there. These come directly from the SBA. This isn't Uncle Bob who's giving you advice on how to fill out the PPP and what the PPP means for your business. So let's talk about some of the things that have come out. So if you have not applied for PPP in round one, first draw is what they're calling it. If you've never applied, that's all right. You could still apply now for what they're calling a first draw PPP loan. Corinne has pulled up the SBA website right here, and you see that first line that's blue in blue there, first draw PPP loans. It talks about first time program participants and gives you a ton of information of what you need to do. Second draw, those are people who applied in round one and they're going back to apply for round two. One of the most important things that has been stressed to us so far is if you've applied for PPP in your first draw, you got it once, go back to the same organization and apply again. So if you applied, I'll use Huntington Bank for an example. If you applied with them in round one, you should be able to log into your bank account, click on apply for PPP, and they already have a bunch of your documentation. I'm sure it's the same with many of the other banks out there. They already have a lot of your documentation. It will save you a ton of time by applying with them again in this second draw. So what do you need? What are the new rules for this? First thing, you have to be able to show, and we'll talk about this in a second, you have to be able to show that you had a 25% loss in any quarter. You get to pick the quarter between 2020 and 2019. So whatever you did in 2019, you have to show 25% less for that same quarter that you pick in 2020. So when we had our shutdowns for the state, when a lot of our businesses were closed because we weren't considered essential businesses, a lot of you had major loss for that several week period where you couldn't open. Take a look at that quarter, see if it's been affected. A couple things on the 25% loss. First of all, SBA guidance was saying if you were under $150,000 on your loan, that you would not have to provide this information up front, that you would provide it on the forgiveness side. I will be honest, I have seen banks asking for this information up front. The other thing that's important to know is your easiest way to show your 25% loss is pulling a profit and loss statement, right? If you don't use QuickBooks, don't feel like, oh, I'm out, right? Instead, pull your bank statements and put it in a spreadsheet to show what your loss is. The SBA guidance does say that you can use bank statements, which was great news for us because a lot of our clients aren't at a point where they're using QuickBooks yet. So show your 25% loss. I will tell you again, be prepared to show that during the application process because we have seen some banks asking, regardless if it's 25% loss, regardless of the loan amount. The other thing that you're going to want to know about this second draw is what can the money be used for in order to be forgiven? 60% of this forgivable loan must be used for payroll expenses. That's important for you to know how you're going to spend it. 60% on payroll, things like sneeze guard, PPE, that is now covered this time. Some software, if you had to buy Zoom, or if you had to buy human resources software, any kind of software that you had to buy to be able to run your business remotely is covered. Again, interest on loans, a lot of the same things that were covered last time, but there were definitely a couple of additions for this round. There's a great document in the chat, and it is titled something to the effect of how to calculate revenue reduction and maximum loan amounts. That document gives great examples for every business type and what documentation you need to use to approve what your loss was and or prove what your calculations were. So I highly suggest that you take a look at that document. And if you have questions specific to yours, we'll definitely take them at the Q&A time. So we're talking a lot right now about PPP. There's been a couple of other things that have come out with this Economic Aid Act that came out at the end of December. So first of all, EIDL is still available. If you go to the SBA site, Corinne, you'll see a section on EIDL. That's the Economic Impact Disaster Loan or Economic Injury Disaster Loan. You will see on here that if you remember, everyone could apply last year. They cut off the funds at some point. You can apply for the loan again. If you applied for the loan and you were denied because of credit, I highly recommend you talk to Ian maybe and get some information on how to request reconsideration if your credit score has gone up. You could write a letter and try to ask for them to reconsider your application. The other thing that's important to know that came out of the same act was the EIDL advance, so the Economic Injury Disaster Loan advance. If you remember back in April, May timeframe, they wrote out the advance, and originally it was supposed to be up to $10,000 per business. And then they put the caveat on there that it was $1,000 per employee. So if you were a single member LLC, you're the only person involved in the business, you only got $1,000. Well, they're doing something new with this, and I haven't seen it roll out yet, but it is on the website now, which just happened last week. So this is definitely an update. They are targeting this advance, also a grant. This is, you do not pay this back. It is not a loan. You would have already had to apply. You cannot apply now, but if you applied before for the EIDL advance, you may be contacted by the SBA. And what they're looking for is they're looking to see businesses who are in a low income community and businesses that have showed at least a 30% loss of revenue over an 8-week period. If that is you, they are allegedly reaching out to you. And you see on here, it will say the communication will be sent from an official government email with an @sba.gov ending. Check if this applies to you. I would make sure that you're checking your email, checking your spam on a regular basis so that you could respond to this email. You cannot apply for this. It's for people who have already applied, but did not get the full up to $10,000. So if you only got $1,000, you may be reconsidered for more money if you meet the criteria I just mentioned. So those are some of the changes that we've definitely seen. I think one of the easiest ways, rather than us covering a bunch of different criteria for what the government's looking for as far as paperwork and calculations, et cetera, I think one of the important things for us to do maybe is, Corinne, if you guys want to share a few other resources and then we can take questions, or do you want to take questions first?
So Trish, there was a question actually sent to me in the chat. What is the target credit score for EIDL?
So unpublished, and Ann may kick me for answering this, unpublished, we have heard 570. If you had below 570, you were getting denied. If you're above that, then you can ask for reconsideration. And we had several people who were below that 570. We worked on a reconsideration letter with them to talk about how their business was affected by COVID, how their business potentially has employees, et cetera. And they did receive a loan after the reconsideration letter. Now,
Yeah,
they worked on their credit score as well. So Yana, you may have additional information.
Yeah, I would agree. It's at a minimum 570. So it's going to be hard to get past without that. The one thing I think would say to people regarding the EIDL, it's a loan. It's not a grant. It's a loan of a 30-year term. So you really have to think about, do you want to commit to this? And, where you are now in your business versus, 30 years down the road. It has good terms, but it is a loan. And, I have advised some businesses to look at other loan programs, both in Allegheny County and the URA that have equally good terms. And so that was one thing I would remind you of. The second thing that has come up with the EIDL loan is it is a federal loan program. And if you accept it, it may impact your application for other federal loan programs, not the PPP, because that's a forgiveness, but other federal loans. So if you are a big business and you're applying for another federal loan, which is a 7A program, it may impact that. So that's something to really think about. And, you know, I had people who applied for the EIDL loan, and when the terms came, they chose not to take it because other opportunities had arisen. So that is one thing I would just remind people. It is a loan. It is a federal loan. And if you sign it, you're committed to doing and to repaying that back. And the only other thing I would mention is regarding the PPP, Trish, is some things I saw that people did in the first round, which impacted their applications, was when you're calculating, and I put the link in the chat, how much you can apply for under the PPP. It is on gross receipts, not net. A lot of people did net, so they actually cut their numbers down. It's on gross receipts. The other thing is, and this impacts quite a good few people, is to show 25% loss between 2019 2020 means you had to be in business, you know, before 2020. And that, for people who started business mid last year, that's a difficulty for them because they don't have a comparative. So that's another thing area. The one thing in this new round of the PPP is for businesses that were for food, for certain businesses, especially businesses that were food service and accommodation businesses, they can, their maximum of the loan is 3.5 times, 3.5 of their monthly salary, whereas most businesses can apply for 2.5. Food and accommodation are allowed in this round to apply for 3.5 because they've been dramatically impacted by the shutdowns. So that's, and I've had many, you know, food-based businesses who I've encouraged to apply for this round of the PPP now that they've started to reopen and everything, because it is a great opportunity to cover your payroll while you're in operation. The only other thing I do, and again, I'm a cautious person, so I remind people of everything. The PPP is a loan. It's a forgivable loan if you meet the criteria, but only forgivable if you meet the criteria. So as Trish mentioned, 60% of the loan has to be used on payroll, right? And if you do not meet that requirement in the first round, you will not get it in the second round. So also, the government does not allow you to double dip. So if you got a PPP in the first round, those the funds that you got have to be used. You can't be applying for a second loan for the same expenses. So you have to have used that period up. And now when you're applying for the new loan, it has to be a new period for new expenses. But again, remember 60% has to be used on payroll. The nice thing is they've expanded what the other 40% can be used on. Now, I had many businesses use the whole 100% of their loan on payroll, and that was clean out. They got forgiveness in very quickly. Forgiveness now for loans under 150,000 is a one page. It's very straightforward. So yeah, so there's a lot of advantages. I would say one of the nice things in the second round of the PPP is they've learned their lessons from the first round. They've cleaned up a lot of the challenges that were there. And and I think both the lenders are very happy for that. The PPP, you have to apply through a lender. It's not something you go on the website and on the government website. You have to go through a lender. So as Trish mentioned, if you apply the first time, I will go back to the same lender. If it's your first time applying, then I would start with where you have your bank account. And if you have challenges getting into that lender, reach out to us, right? So there is a number of other organizations that provide. Pursuit Lending is a great organization. We've had many people who were able to get loans through there. The other thing is I've reminded business owners, if it's their first time, to stress when you're talking to your lender that you did not get it the first time, that you are a woman-owned or minority or veteran-owned business, because they are under the SBA guidelines to give priority to those businesses. So make sure you stress that. But they're kind of, I think, Tricia, everything else is covered.
Yeah.
There's a question in the chat here for either of you. When do you submit the documents for it to be forgivable?
So if you got a loan in the first round, you can submit them now if you've extended your period. So if you got a first loan, you had either an option of 8 weeks or 24 weeks. So if you completed that period of time, you can submit now to all the lenders are taking the forgiveness applications. Mm-hmm.
Interesting question about when do you submit. So if you are talking about applying now, you won't get that information for a while. I will tell you, the banks have been very transparent and very great at communicating when you could submit for forgiveness. Those who applied through Huntington got emails for months saying, don't apply yet because we're not quite ready, that we think that there's going to be some changes. So the bank, your bank will tell you when it's time to apply for your forgiveness.
Yeah, I mean, I know the forgiveness goes to the bank first, they review it, then they send it over to the SBA, and the SBA by law has 4 weeks to get approval done. So that is law in statute. But they are processing now. The law is in place regarding the forgiveness. I don't foresee any other changes. So, I've worked with clients and I would start submitting now if your bank will take it, but most of them have started to do it now.
Yeah, and one thing, I don't know if either one of us touched on the dates. You had mentioned, if you started a business mid-year, you had to be in business on February 15th of 2020. So if you weren't in business on that date, I'm sorry. There may be some other programs, not like, sorry, you're out of luck, but there may be some other programs that the URA could tell you about. Or Ann.
It looks like we have another question here from Justin Zell. Got a PPP loan in the first round and also got the EIDL advance. Does anyone know how the SBA is doing on getting the PPPs fully forgiven? I know the rule was changed about 3 weeks ago.
Well, again, it's fully forgiven if you meet the eligibility requirements for forgiveness. Now, one of the things that was changed in the new act that was passed before the holidays was if you got an idle advance, originally they were saying if you got an idle advance, let's say of 4,000, that was going to be taken off your PPP. That is no longer the case, right? So if you got an advance through the idle, it is an advance, it is a grant. It's nothing, it will not affect your PPP. But in terms of, there is a timeline, but you don't have to have forgiveness process to apply for the second round of the PPP. You do, that is, and that's just unrealistic. There's hundreds and billions of applications out there. So the SBA is not going to get them all forgiven before people apply. But you do have to have used the funds for that period of time. That's the only thing.
And Justin, you may want to talk to your bank to see if they've got that figured out. I know I had a client that they applied for forgiveness before that law was passed, and they were having to pay $10,000 back. So I would definitely wait and make sure that your bank is processing with the idle advance being forgiven.
And yes, you can apply for idle and PPP.
All right. I think what we'll do is maybe do a quick update from Josette related to some local resources. And then if folks, are thinking of questions, feel free to add questions about the PPP or the EIDL as well. And we can circle back to that stuff or on some of the resources that Josette's going to talk about. Josette, just let me know what you want me to show on the screen and I'll bring it up. You're muted, Josette.
I had a whole conversation on a meeting earlier today. I couldn't figure out why nobody was answering me because I was muted. So I think we'll start, Corinne, with talking about URA loan products, and then I'll talk about some of the others, and then you and Charles maybe can talk about the rent relief if you want to do that, whichever comes up.
Sure. Let me think. Find the right window.
If you just want to bring up our website, that would be fine.
Yes.
So,
Sorry, I thought I had it up.
There we
but
go.
not this.
so the URA, a lot of you are already familiar with us because I recognize some names on the participant list, but we are the city's economic development arm, and part of what we do in that is that we are a small business lender. So we have several, we have some products that you can use at any time, not just during COVID, to build your business, to expand your business, to fix up the front of your business if you have a storefront location. So just a couple of those to go over. Probably our most popular product is our microloan. Can you scroll to the microloan first? That's up.
Yeah. Is it? Oh, sorry. I thought it was below that.
Well, while we're finding it, I think that's on the How We Help. This URA.org is the URA website. So it has not only information about our programs, but also information about the other stuff we're talking about tonight. So probably our most popular loan, I'm going to go through this really quickly, is our micro enterprise loan. It is a $5,000 to $30,000, 2% interest rate, and it's up to 7 years length of loan. There's some application fees and things like that, but this is available within the city of Pittsburgh, and it is for businesses, small businesses that are starting or expanding. It's really flexible terms, and it's one of the nice things about this loan is that we're flexible on underwriting, which means that if you had some issues with your credit, you had an illness in the family that trashed your credit, or we know that life happens when it comes to trying to build your business. That doesn't kick you out of the program. So we're a little bit easier in that way to deal with than traditional lenders. And we also have technical assistance available to businesses, actually for our other products as well. If you come in and you need some help with your business plan, or filling out the application, or pulling together your financials, or dealing with your credit, then we refer you actually primarily to Chatham Center for Women's Entrepreneurship, or the city's Financial Empowerment Center for folks that are working on their credit. So that's one of our programs. The other is our a little bit larger program, our Minority Business Recovery and Growth Loan. That's a larger loan. It's up to $100,000. It has 0% interest for the first year, and then 2% for the balance of the loan. And this loan actually has deferred payments for 1 year, which means that you're not paying on it for a whole year. This is specifically targeted to minority-owned businesses. It's actually made possible through a donation from PNC to the URA to help us with this loan, and it was developed earlier this year to help businesses kind of getting through and getting out of COVID, getting into a growth mode for businesses. So this is also, and you can find this this is one of our other great products, and you can find this all on our website. I think at this point I'll talk a little bit about what's available from other folks besides the URA, and just a little bit about other resources. I don't know necessarily the details of products, but there are other options within the city that are what we call non-traditional lenders. So these are folks that are either government related like us, or are nonprofits, CDFIs, community development financial institutions that work within the community and that have a little bit broader scope than your average lender. One of those is Bridgeway Capital, and their email, if somebody can throw bridgewaycapital.org into the chat, they actually have a lot of programs available to small businesses, from creative loans to COVID response. They will help you with some technical assistance around the PPP as well, and financing programs. So they're a good partner as well. And the other partner is if you're not in the city, and if you can't take advantage of the URA programs, then the county, Allegheny County Economic Development has a pretty recently released microloan program. They've been really ramping up what they're doing, and they have a loan that's in many ways similar to the URA's loan, but there is it's a really good interest rate on it, and it's also really flexible terms. The other thing that Allegheny County is doing is they have also started to offer you technical assistance with their loans. So you can get help with the same as the URA. You can get help with aspects of your business, and you can get help with actually filling out the applications. One other thing, if you're interested, that the URA is actually, we've been working on in partnership with Neighborhood Allies, and it's something that's going to be coming to the county, the whole county as well. And that's our Get Online, Grow Online program. If you are a business, that that wants to do e-commerce, then this is a program for you. We are actually changed it this year so that it is a rolling program. So if you're interested in it, if you're interested in upping your online presence, there's no funds associated with it, but you do get up to 12 hours of assistance from a digital technical assistance provider. And it is a good program to take advantage of. There you go, Corinne. You can find it right on the URA website under Tools for Small Businesses. So Corinne and Charles, do you guys want to talk about the rent relief program real quickly?
Sure. The commercial. You want to do it, Corinne? You want me to?
Oh, go ahead. I'll show the flyer. You can go ahead and talk about it.
Yeah, so we've still got, there's an application, I believe it's online, isn't it, Corinne? But we're for tenants and landlords that are working together to reduce their rent in the city of Pittsburgh. And we have some money that's not CDBG money, so I think we can go outside the city, can we, Corinne? For a few of these. So now we've got.
I mean, they've got to be inside the city.
They all have to be inside the city. Okay, sorry about that. So anyway, we have a few left, some room and space left, and we've covered, quite a bit of the city. But it's 50% of the reduction of the landlord reimbursed back to the landlord. It's a grant from the URA. So for instance, if you have a tenant whose rent is $1,000 and they reduce their rent $500, that the landlord reduces $500, or reduces $500, we pay back the landlord $250. So the tenant would see $1,000 reduction. The landlord would only be out $500 less. The grant pays back $500, and it can go up to $3,000 over a period of 6 months. And Corinne, if you want to add any additional information about it, please do.
No, I think you covered it pretty well. I mean, it's a little complicated, but basically this is a way that landlords are sort of incentivizing landlords to try and reduce tenants' rates. But it's like brick and mortar, Main Street kind of businesses. Happy to try and upload that as well to the chat. The only other item that I think might be worth mentioning is the creative small business. This is, see if this will open or not. Sorry, folks, my computer's been running a little slow. But this is another product that Bridgeway is offering, and it's essentially another loan, a flexible loan for lack of a better term, I guess, creative small businesses. Again, we will see if my computer wants to bring it up on the screen or not. But it looks like we've gotten some activity in the chat. I don't know if someone wants to take a look, see if there's any questions that we could be answering at the same time.
Well, the one that came up that I noticed was about the Shuttered venue grant, and Josette went ahead and shared the recorded version of our previous webinar on that topic. I also shared the information from the SBA webpage in the chat as well.
Yeah, the Shuttered venue is a great opportunity. Again, it's only relative to certain businesses. The SBA is still finalizing the guidelines on that. And we were told to wait and see what's happening. But I do know with the new administration coming in, it is one of the first priorities to get that out there. And so we were told maybe in a week, we might receive more information on the guidance of that. Yeah, and that is a grant. So, which I think is really important.
So one thing we have learned on that, if you are a venue that's interested in it, that you cannot apply for the PPP and the Shuttered venue grant. You cannot receive them both.
Correct.
You can receive this. Well, this is what I'm going to say. What Kate Booker from Chatham told us last week. So hopefully it's still true. You can apply for Idle and Shuttered venue and receive both, but you can't apply for Shuttered venue and the PPP loan and
correct.
Apply and
yes, correct. Yeah. So the government look at that as double dipping because the Shuttered venue is a grant, and if the PPP is forgiven, it's a forgivable loan, which is viewed as a grant as well. So yeah, so you can apply for the Shuttered venue and Idle, but not with the PPP. Yeah. But again,
so
the Shuttered venue, one of the things is, and I think a lot of people got confused about it, is, you have to be a venue that sells tickets for performances, movie theaters, and things like that. You can't be an event planner. So it's important that you have to have a physical venue and you have to be selling tickets. Although agents are allowed to apply, but they're selling tickets as well.
And do you have any information? Sorry, real quickly, and you don't know any information on the retained employee tax credit? I think that's the name.
Yes, so the retained employee tax credit, it was in place that if you applied for the PPP, which again is for payroll, that you were not eligible to apply for the tax credit for your people on a payroll. The new Economic Act bill that was passed before the holidays actually reversed that. So now you can apply for it, but it cannot be for, you can apply for the credit now. You can also apply for the PPP. but you can apply them for the same payroll. So if someone applies for the PPP and I'm on payroll, they can apply, my boss cannot apply for the employment credit as well for me for the same period. So again, you have to be careful about this double dipping. This is where they really get into it. So you can apply for them, but you have to make sure they're kind of separate. So the credit, I'm applying for these 10 employees for this period of time, the PPP, and I'm applying for these number of employees for this period of time. Does that make sense? It's, and they're still kind of updating that. The IRS kind of came out and wanted more clearance on what was really involved there. So there's still some fine tuning on that. But the good news is if you got your PPP in the first round, you can go back and apply for this tax credit. You are allowed to do that. So it is reversed and you can go back. You just have to look at the new regs, and I'll try and find them and post them here in terms of the separation of what the expenses were.
Thank you.
So just a question or a note that I'm going to put to Trish and or Ann to emphasize, and that is, as a business, if you haven't already, getting your DUNS number and also the SAM registration.
Yeah, and I see someone posted in there that it could take 30 to 45 days to get your DUNS number. I will say, if you are doing government contracting, there is a different website that you could go to and get it within like 5 to 7 days, I think. I mean, I've had customers get them in like 3 days. So highly recommend that you do get your DUNS number.
Yes, when you're dealing with the federal government, there is a required information, so I mean, but I would stress for anybody who is on the call tonight that if they have employees and they were in business before February 1st, 2020, they should really consider the PPP, because this second round of PPP is very favorable for businesses. They have really corrected a lot of the hiccups that were there in the first round, and it will be there. Now, they do say that applications will be accepted up to March 31st, or to the period when all funds are depleted. So the Congress passed, I can't remember the total amount, maybe you do, Trish, the actual full amount for the PPP loan. It was millions of dollars. But once the applications are submitted and that number is hit, it stops, because then they have to go back to Congress and ask them for more money. So they said they believe it should be there till March 31st, but there is a maximum amount of money allowed by Congress for the PPP. It's not as crazy as it was the first time, where it really was a first come, first served. And unfortunately, a lot of small businesses got excluded. It is not the case anymore, but I don't want someone applying on March 30th and hoping, and there's still funds left. So it isn't an endless pit. There is a maximum amount of the money that it can be expended on this.
Yeah, and to tag on to that March 31st deadline, do not wait to March 31st for other reasons, because the guidance says that the SBA has to receive your application by March 30th. If you're contacting your bank on March 31st, the SBA isn't getting your application that day. We saw a lot of people miss out in round one because whatever the deadline was, they waited to that day to contact the bank, and the banks had all quit like 10 days before that. So do it as soon as you can. Don't wait for the deadline.
Mm-hmm. And again, it's again, the challenge with the PPP is it's not go on a website and apply. You have to go through a lender. And we encourage people to go through the lender they have a relationship with and start it now. But lenders can get to a stage where they may stop taking applications as well. They're completely entitled and allowed to do that. So it could get to a stage where they're like, okay, we've done our full, we're done taking applications. So I would start reaching out to your lender today. And if your lender is not accepting applications or not responding to you, reach out to us. We do have other lenders that we have worked with, and online lenders that are completely approved and regulated by the SBA, who will take your applications.
I think one other important thing is we keep talking about payroll employees. A lot of small businesses in round one didn't apply because they didn't think they were eligible. But if you show a profit on line 31 of your Schedule C, even though you don't technically have employees, you're still eligible to apply. So don't just discount what we're saying and say, well, I don't have employees, I'm out. It's worth investigating, schedule an appointment with Ann and her people and say, hey, here's my tax return, am I eligible?
And the only last thing I would leave is, we don't know what changes will come with the new administration. There's new people being appointed to the SBA and other agencies as well. So we may hopefully see another stimulus bill. I think, President Biden is encouraging and trying to get more money passed. So there may be other opportunities there as well. But, it's also important to look in your backyard as well. So we have great resources with the URA. If you're in the city, if you're in the county, put the information about the loan that Josette mentioned about Allegheny County, which is a great loan. It is a loan program, but it's a great one out there. And there's one other thing that came to my attention today, which was, it's called the Small Business Grant. It's for Main Street businesses. And I'm going to post it in here. It's actually a grant. I think the deadline is Thursday, it closes. So let me post that in here. It's a national program. So there's lots of different opportunities out there. Cisco has a great grant program for tech businesses. So, there's always new ones starting, but I'll post this other one I found out today in the chat as well.
And if people wanted to be keeping up to date, I know we try and post things to our social media and do some email blasts when we find out more information. So feel free to drop your email in the chat, or I don't know, Ann, if there's any good resources for you all or Trish with you guys in terms of just being notified when new things come about, if they come about.
Yeah, we have a COVID-19 resource page. We upload things there as soon as we get it. Honestly, if you're in a particular industry or area, I would just call our center. I would call and say, look, here's my business. Here's what I am. What's out there for me? We do counseling nearly every day and in the evening time and weekends. Most of our counselors are very familiar. I send them updates every day on new stuff that's out there. The other thing is where we also have a center that works with food-based businesses and agriculture-based businesses called Craft Chatham. So they're familiar with a lot of grants or programs that are for food-based or farmers or things like that. So, I just found out about one recently that is for packers. So if you're a business that does packing and bottling and labeling, there was one there for that. So there's always new ones. There's new ones that come out every day. Any resource guide you have is outdated, the minute you update it. So some of them have short timelines and that are out there, but I will upload it's called At Your Side Small Business Grant for Main Street Businesses. So I'll upload this to the chat.
So I can comment a little bit about the At Your Side grant. So the drawback, unfortunately for that, it's provided through the National Main Street Center. And you have to be a bricks and mortar business in a certified or affiliate Main Street program, which are, terms that they use. Unfortunately, at this time, none of our districts within the city qualify for that. We're because the certification process is a long and sort of arduous process that doesn't most of the time doesn't come out with any real benefit on the end. But we are looking at some affiliate status for some of our districts. So, but right now, none of the business districts in the city are eligible. A few of the ones in the county outside of the city are. So Wilkinsburg, Sewickley, a couple of other districts in the county are certified districts. But it's worth looking into if you're in one of those areas.
Thank you.
Let's, we'll say last call for questions. Then we're gonna close up shop. I, to be honest, cannot check the chat because my computer is frozen, but I don't know if anyone else.
We're on
can
it, buddy.
take
Don't worry.
Okay.
Yeah, all questions are fielded thus far.
Okay.
Yeah, I would
Well,
just say
go
to
ahead.
people just to reach out if they have questions. The application form, if you need it, I send everybody to have a look at the application forms for both the PPP and EIDL and any ones that's out there. One of the other things I would mention is what our center actually has a funding clinic. So we have bankers who volunteer and who work with businesses. Doesn't matter what loan program it is, whether you're applying, or we actually have a lot of clients that need refinancing. So need help with refinancing. So we have a funding clinic. You can make a schedule an appointment there, meet with the counselors, and they work with you, and that is all free. It is your taxpayers' money paying for it. So I encourage people to just reach out, schedule an appointment. We'll get you in with somebody. These are free and they're confidential. And, we'll try and find the best option for you that's out there.
Yeah, that was a great question. Whoever just asked the question, is the EIDL grant or PPP loan information open to Public Information Act since it is government funding? Yes, and I think that caught people by surprise. In early days, people just needed money, right? They were applying and they needed money to sustain their business. And a lot of that was made public, and it was a little shocking for some people, I think.
It is required by Congress. Yes, so it is.
And similarly too, just to be transparent, like if somebody wanted to know who received proceeds of the URA loans over the past year, we'd also be obliged to disclose that information as well.
Yeah, but we do not disclose any vital information about your business. So basically what's on those lists, like you saw the stories last year of, X large business got 10 million from PPP or something like that. But that is the only thing that's on the list, is what the business is and how much you get from that program. So the SBA is not sharing any vital details about your business.
And I would just like to stress, well, we've worked with a lot of clients that have applied for the URA loans, specifically the micro loan, which is a great program. Because some businesses don't need a big amount. They just need 20,000 maybe, or 25 to help them. And it's a great service and a great program there. The rent relief program is great as well. We've worked with clients working through that. And then Allegheny County's loan program. So if you're not in the city, there's something there with the county as well. So I'd highly encourage you to look at that. It doesn't have to be on a federal level. It can be a local program that can really help you.
All right, I think what we'll end up doing is we can send out the recording to folks who are who registered. Just if you want to go back over and check anything. I don't know how easy it is to check the chat in a recording though. So I would say if there's any resources that you need from the chat, get it now.
Well, the new, is this Zoom? This is Zoom, yeah. The new Zoom just did updates last week on their software program. So when you click on the record button now and you watch the recording will come up and you actually can see the chat. So don't worry about it. You can actually see it now. Yeah, Zoom is learning too.
Yeah.
Well, hopefully the fact that Corinne doesn't update his software doesn't screw us, but we'll see.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. So even Zoom has to pivot and learn. So yeah.
Yeah. Well, we really appreciate everyone's time. I know it's tricky for some people juggling family. Particularly Ann and Trish, you guys, invaluable, the insight you guys are bringing and sharing. I know it's difficult to give people advice because, you're in a tough spot, and there's a lot of uncertainties out there. You know, it's tough to know what everyone's particular situations, but I think you guys were great in terms of really giving concrete information people can utilize. Again, thanks, Josette, for kind of reviewing some of our programs, and Charles and for Henry jumping on. And yeah, we'll keep trying to roll out webinars, you know, where we can bring in some of this expertise. I don't know if we have anything on the books yet for February, but we've been trying to add them fairly quickly. So keep an eye out for whatever comes next.
Thank you guys.
Yeah,
Right.
one little parting request is that you all share this information with your friends and colleagues.
Mhm.
Yeah. All right. With that, I think we can wrap things up. Thanks everyone for attending.
Thank you,
Good night,
everyone. For
everybody.
Trish, we'll see y'all later.
Thank you. See ya. See you, Charles.
And Josette, I think either you or Charles are gonna have to close up shop because I still cannot press any buttons on Zoom.
So you want me to just leave the
Okay.
meeting? You guys done?
I saved the
Yeah.
chat.
Okay.
I
Do you have
just have to
access to
find
the-
it.
Are you able to stop the recording?
Yeah, I can. Oh, yeah, well, we can do that right now. I can do that.
I think any of us signed in under Tom's account can do that. But...
I can't get to it either.
This is why we have backup. Hopefully, I've been on a pinwheel
No,
of
you're the
death. for the
host.
last-
You are the host.
Oh my gosh. I don't know if my thing overheated, but I've been literally on a pinwheel for the last 20 minutes or so. All right. I don't know
You
how long this
can
thing
go
is
in
gonna
when
work.
it's done. You can go in when it's done and you can edit it.
I'm gonna try shutting it down from just the browser perspective. All right, thanks guys.
All right.
Threw it together
Right.
a little bit
Bye.
last
You
minute, but it
too.
was great. Or not. Maybe it won't allow me to do that either.
What are you trying to do? Do you want me to just leave out? You want me? I can. Well, if I leave, it's not gonna
no,
shut it.
Yeah,
I'll just try.